Welcome to This Explainer. We're about to pull back the curtain on a hidden world. We're going to meet life's unseen architects, the protists and fungi that, and I mean this literally, built the very foundation for the world we know today.
So let's just start with a big question. What if I told you that long before plants, animals, or any of the life we're familiar with, there was this vast, unbelievably diverse group of organisms that wrote the rulebook for all complex life?
All right, let's start at the very beginning and meet the true pioneers of the complex cell, the protists.
Now, when we say protist, we're really talking about mostly single-celled eukaryotes. You know, this group is so incredibly diverse that scientists don't even classify it as a single kingdom anymore. But here's the key thing. Their complexity is just astounding. Each and every one of these cells is its own self-contained universe, doing everything it needs to live all within that tiny little boundary. And get this. Look at how flexible they are when it comes to food. Some are basically like tiny plants, making their own food from sunlight. Others are more like animals, hunting down or absorbing food. And then you have the mixotrophs, who can just do both. It's this incredible adaptability that let them completely conquer pretty much every aquatic environment on the entire planet.
So you have to wonder, how in the world did they get so complex? Well, that brings us to one of the most game-changing events in the history of life, endosymbiosis.
Okay, what happened here is just incredible. This wasn't a hostile takeover, it was a partnership. An ancient cell swallowed a bacterium, but instead of just digesting it, it was like, hey, you're useful, and it put it to work. That little bacterium became the mitochondrion, the power plant for our cells. And then later, the same thing happened again with a photosynthetic bacterium, which became the chloroplast. This was, right here, the birth of the modern complex cell as we know it.
So yeah, the takeaway is that this one single process, one organism just setting up shop inside another, where they both benefit, is the origin story for the powerful little engines that drive all complex life on Earth. That includes you and me. This new cellular technology was a total game changer. It kicked off this massive explosion of diversity, with life branching out into what we now call 4 major supergroups of eukaryotes. Now, don't get hung up on memorizing these names. It's better to think of them as evolution's first, kind of wild experimental blueprints for making complex organisms. Each one of these supergroups took that same basic toolkit, the nucleus, the mitochondria, and just ran with it to build something totally new. To really get a feel for this incredible variety, let's just zoom in on one of these groups, the SAR clade. The name itself, SAR, it's just an acronym for the 3 big groups inside it. But what's important is that even though they all share a common ancestor, the members are just wildly different from each other. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the insane range we're talking about. You've got diatoms, these tiny algae living in glass-like shells that are absolutely crucial for regulating our climate. In fact, they pump out something like 20% of the oxygen we breathe. Then, in the same big group, you have dinoflagellates, which can cause those toxic red tides. And then you have Plasmodium, the parasite that causes malaria. It's just an absolutely astonishing spectrum of function. So where did all the life we actually see around us, the trees, mushrooms, animals, where did it all come from? Well, the answer is hiding right inside these ancient protist blueprints. Let's just see how this played out. If you look at the Archaeoplastidus supergroup, there's a line of green algae that eventually made the jump from water to land. And that lineage gave rise to the entire plant kingdom. That's right, every single blade of grass, every giant sequoia tree can trace its ancestry directly back to a protist.
And it's not just plants. We, as in animals, along with the entire kingdom of fungus, we also trace our family tree back to a different protist lineage, this one from the Uniconta supergroup. Hey, since we just mentioned them, let's take a closer look at one of these major descendants, the totally fascinating and often misunderstood kingdom of fungi.
Okay, first things first, fungi are not plants. Not even close. They don't do photosynthesis. Instead, they are absolute masters of absorption. They digest their food on the outside by squirting out these powerful enzymes and then just soaking up the nutrients. Their entire body is basically this vast underground network of threads called a mycelium, and it is perfectly built for this job. Their cell walls are made of this tough stuff called chitin, not cellulose like plants, and they are just incredibly good at breaking down organic matter and soaking up all the goods. And this makes them absolutely indispensable in any ecosystem.
They are nature's ultimate recyclers, breaking down all the dead stuff. They're critical partners, forming these symbiotic relationships with plants that are essential for healthy forests. And yes, sometimes they can also be parasites.
But let's come full circle back to the protists, because we just can't forget their other gigantic role. In all the world's oceans, lakes, and rivers, it's the photosynthetic protists that are the main producers. They're responsible for about half of all photosynthesis on Earth, capturing the sun's energy and forming the absolute base of the food web for almost all aquatic life.
So here's the bottom line. This invisible majority of life has been shaping our planet's biology from the very beginning. They're the foundation, they're the innovators, they are the ancestors. They are, without a doubt, the unseen architects of our world.
And that just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If a group of organisms we barely ever think about is this critical to life's past and present, what other invisible forces, what other unseen architects are out there shaping our world right now?